So welcome to the CNAB general meeting for September 15th, 2001. I'm Carolyn Van Slyke. And I thought maybe real quick, do we have any new people here? Hey, I'm not going to mess up your name. Hadrian, you want to introduce yourself?
Yeah, hi. So I'm Adrian, and been working with CNAB for a couple of months now, and very interesting into getting a bit more into like the community and what's happening new around the CNAB world.
Oh, great, great. Is there anything in particular you're doing with CNAB right now that you're looking into or using it for?
I'm actually using it a lot for with like Terraform invocation image. So your point today about like outputs with state for bundles is very interesting.
Oh, perfect. It's nice when the demo is timely. Vaughn, would you be up for taking notes today? Should be pretty light
Sure.
load.
Yep.
Great. So what I wanted to demo today, and just like about the format real quick, anyone can add agendum items here. So if there's something that you think about and you're like, oh, I'd love to discuss this with people about how bundles work or how one of the tools is working or anything like that, you can always just edit this document. Yeah, I'll put it in chat. You can also find this on the website cnab.io. Oops. Yeah, so I have been working on a new feature in Porter lately for our V1 alpha. And the idea is we wanted to make certain types of things in bundles easier to do. Specifically for me, what really got me grumpy and implemented this feature is that I use Terraform inside of my bundles. And Terraform has that tfstate file, and that records, what VMs did it provision, what resources in general, so that it knows what's new, what should be removed, and things like that. And what I ran into is I ran Porter, and it generated that tfstate, but then the install failed, and the tfstate wasn't persisted. Okay. And so that left my bundle in a really bad spot because it had provisioned resources at this point. But when I repeated install, because the previous install hadn't finished successfully, the tfstate was in this weird limbo. It hadn't actually been persisted anywhere. And so Terraform essentially ended up orphaning some resources that I had to go delete by hand. So I realized there was a slight usability problem for Porter and bundles. So what I did is I took two existing concepts that are in bundles right now. You can use them. It's in the spec. And they're called parameter sources and outputs. tfstate was an output. The problem was it wasn't being picked up because the bundle had failed. And at the time, Porter had this rule that if the bundle failed, we weren't going to capture outputs. And this made me realize that there was kind of a gap in Porter's mental model for how to work with bundles. Because tfstate isn't really an output as far as the bundle author thought about it. It's state. It's not something relevant to the user who's running the bundle, but it's like important plumbing to make it work. So what Porter does is it adds explicitly the idea of state. So here's my demo bundle here. It deploys a really cute app you'll see in a bit that shows you tracking cute kitties on the internet. Tappy cat. I'm using two mixins. I'm using the Helm 3 mixin and obviously the Terraform mixin because that's what we're working with here. Some of this doesn't matter. I have it deploying to Azure. It has a couple parameters, like a location where you can deploy the bundle, a kube config file, and a connection string. And then as outputs, oh, I messed up my bundle. I'm so sorry. Wait, let me remove these. Boop, boop. Sorry about that. These aren't supposed to be here because I just turned them into state. So this is what it's going to look like now. Instead of storing them as outputs and parameters, these are things that Terraform is going to make for me and then remember that it made. So let's go down a little bit and see what Terraform's going to do. In my install, I'm going to run Terraform, and it's going to generate a database for me, giving me the connection string. And it's also going to create a cluster for me, and it's going to save off a kubeconfig file for me. So instead of having them as parameters and outputs, you saw I just removed those. Instead, what I want to be able to do is have the bundle remember between runs that these were created, and it should be able to just use them. And the way we're going to manage that is through the new section in Porter called state. And what this lets a bundle author do is they can say, here are a couple files that are going to be created by the Terraform mixin. And every time the bundle runs, I'm going to check for this file. And if I find it, I'm going to persist it. And then when the next time the bundle runs, I'm going to inject this file back into the bundle so we can use it on the next run. And so what that lets me do is instead of having the user see that there's inputs and outputs, you saw I just removed the output for kubeconfig, I removed the output for the connection string, and instead I've just got this right here. And Porter will track it for me. So let's see what that's going to look like. Oh, and just one more thing, let me explain the bundle real quick. So I like lay down all my infrastructure here at Terraform. And then I have the Terraform mixin. This is a new thing. It isn't in the Terraform mixin yet, but will be soon. It'll immediately write one of its outputs to a file so I can use it in the next step. So it writes out the kubeconfig. So I can immediately turn around and use Helm and go, hey Helm, use this cluster that we just created. And I want you to install my tabby cats on it. And when I install tabby cats, I'm going to give it the connection string that Terraform created in the previous step too. And then it's going to output where my app got deployed to. Yeah, let's just go here. So I have Porter installed, and because it is a bundle that takes a little bit to run, I'm not going to demo live installing it, but let's just take a look at what this bundle does. It installs tabby cats. As you can see, it describes that to you. It tells you, what credentials you need. And for parameters, it just has location. You don't see any of that state stuff. You don't see tfstate there. Previously, like in old versions of Porter, you would see tfstate there because it was declared as an output. But now you don't see that anymore. It's kind of like transparent to the user. And then here are a couple of my outputs as well. So what I want to do is I'm going to run the install command a second time. So the first time I ran it, it laid down all this infrastructure, okay? And the second time I run it, this is what's going to happen. It's going to pick up that the tfstate file is already there. Porter is going to find that tfstate file that it persisted, and it's going to put it back into the bundle. So it knows I've already installed a cluster. I know I've already created a database, and here are all the variables and anything that Terraform needs to essentially realize that this is a no op. So Terraform's going to run. Here it is, figuring out what the current state is using the tfstate file. And this is what it comes up with. No changes. So I ran install a second time and nothing actually happens. This is great because I didn't end up, for example, creating a duplicate set of resources. It recognized I already did all this. And so that's what the state thing is allowing us to do, is be able to rerun install or upgrade or any other command and have it kind of pick up where it left off and be a little bit more aware of what's previously done. Obviously, I could have just used a Terraform backend, right? Like a remote backend and stored it in Terraform Cloud. I could have stored it in cloud storage somewhere, like S3. But sometimes that's a burden on your your users, the people who are running the bundle. So let's say like I'm making a bundle for my open source project, okay? And I want just anyone to be able to install it and use it. I don't really want to require perhaps that they have existing infrastructure for Terraform and an account and know how to use it, you know, and you know, make all those parameters to the bundle. I'd like for the bundle itself to just be able to deal with that tfstate file, so that it's not like a concern I have to push on the user. So that's why we're doing this in the first place. Yeah. So we ran the bundle, everything's fine. And then at the end, as you can see, again, we pack up that bundle state and we remember it. And Porter actually just zips this all up as a TGZ file. So that was it running it. So let's take a look at what happened. So I'm going to look at the outputs from running my bundle. My bundle's name here is demo. And it created 3 things that it was going to expose to the user. Again, you don't see state here, but you get to see some of the things that were created by the bundle. So the connection string we were talking about, the kube config, and this is what I'm interested in because I've been talking about tabby cats. I haven't showed you what that is at all. So this is tabby cats. It's actually a tab like plugin for your browser. When you open a new tab, you get a new cat. And what I wanted to do is I made a little app that lets you save your favorites. And then you can look at them and show them to your friends and go, look at all these cute cats I found, like Snuggly Stormbringer. You know, this is really important tech work we're doing here, okay? We're solving real problems with cute cats, actually. So this deployed my app, which is cool. Let's kind of look at what happened under the hood. If you just want to see like what got deployed, I can actually grab out, actually, let me run a different command first. We saw all the outputs and we saw that one of the outputs was kube config. I just want to save the kube config to my local machine so I can just use it and connect to the cluster I just made. So we're going to load that up, tell kubectl to use that new kube config. And I'm just going to list all my services so you can see what we've got here. So there's my tabby cat demo, and there's this external IP that you saw that Porter captured for us. I always think this is one of the neatest little things you can do. Let me go back to the bundle definition real quick. I didn't really talk about this very much. This has kind of been something that's been in Porter for a while, but I don't know if people actually know about it, so I wanted to show this. When I run Helm, I'm telling Helm, the mixin, not the CLI, but the mixin, that I want to collect a little bit of information about the release I just deployed. So what I can do is say, I want to grab some information about a service, and then I can say which service I want. I know the naming convention from this chart, so I know it's going to be called the name of whatever my bundles installation is, plus tabby cat demo. And then it's going to run some JSON path on what it gets back. So it's going to run, you know, kubectl get, it's going to output it to JSON for you. And then it's going to run a JSON path expression, and it's going to get out that load balancer we just saw. So if you go back here, this is what it's scraping. And that's how we were able to get this. What's kind of slick about that is that, you know, I jumped into kubectl here and kind of showed you how one way you could have gotten the data. If you create outputs in your bundle, though, you can get a lot more, which is fun. Yeah, so that's kind of what I wanted to show you today, is just it's able to remember what it ran before and load up state from before. I showed it to you for Terraform, and for Terraform, it's super useful, again, because you don't need a remote backend for this. You know, to be honest, in production, you probably do want a remote backend. I think that's actually the most robust way, especially if you're managing things and resources, not 100% through your bundle. But being able to do this for, like I said, like an open source project is not an internal IT thing. You're giving it up and packaging it to someone else and you don't know what their infrastructure is. This is something that could be pretty useful. Also, some tools don't store state for you, right? So Terraform has this entire backend. Maybe you're deploying resources directly using CLIs, and you want to be able to remember, hey, I made this VM, here's the resource ID, and when this step is run a second time, I can, check that it's there. I can go, hey, this is the resource ID that I made, and you can store it in that state and just kind of give your bundle a little bit more memory. So what I wanted to show next is how does this get implemented? Because I kind of said this is all Porter, but it's not. It actually uses functionality that's inside of the CNAB spec. So if I look at my bundle real quick, this is the directory where I have, all the magic that made the Tabby Cat bundle. Like here's the charts, here's, my Terraform files. And when I built the bundle, it made a bundle.json. Okay, and this is the definition of what the CNAB bundle is. Okay, this is the official portable piece of the bundle. And what I wanted to show you is it uses concepts that are in the spec right now, but it combines them and kind of makes something that we didn't have before, which is this state. So anybody else could do this, even if you're not using Porter. We have a concept of a parameter source in CNAB. And what that means is I can define a parameter. Let's scroll down here. We've got a couple parameters. You saw like connection string, location, some top secret hidden ones that you don't see anywhere else, but you'll see it in this file. And here's a new top secret hidden one. It's called Porter state, right? And this is the new parameter that Porter's going to add to all your bundles. And it's going to basically look for a state TG zip file every time the bundles run. And if it's there, it's going to unpack it onto the file system for you. And so what the parameter source says is to the runtime, the CNAB runtime, when it has a parameter called Porter state and the user didn't give you a value, which to be honest, most people when they're using parameter sources, they never intend it to be set by the user. It's mostly wiring for the runtime. Is I can say, look for a previous output from this bundle. And if there's an output named Porter state that it had collected from a previous run, I want it re-injected back into the bundle as this parameter. So you run the bundle, it makes an output, right? When you run the bundle a second time, it looks for that previous output, injects it back in as a parameter, and then this is how you get this like cycle of it magically remembering the file, which is kind of neat. I don't think there's anything else too interesting in the bundle.json to show, but I just want people to be aware that like it's not Porter magic. It was just a creative reuse of existing concepts we had, which kind of shows how flexible a lot of this is, which is pretty neat. So that's all I wanted to show. I don't know if people had questions or maybe even novel uses for this that they see in their own bundles.
So
Just staring at Ralph.
Carolyn.
Yeah.
Well, you should, because this is a really cool background that I just grabbed. Really fun. This is an old house. So how does the state work with respect? Just a question, because I'm trying to clarify on this. How does this implementation work with respect to bundle versions? So is it it's picking up the state from the last installed version of this bundle version, correct?
Yeah, okay, so the word version is super overloaded in this problem space, right, in this domain. So we have the version of the bundle, and let's just remind ourselves of what that is. When we talk about the bundle version, it would be this, okay, right? We also have the application version. I'm deploying this Tabby Cat Tracker application, and it's on a different version, right?
Right.
And then we have another thing. It's a revision, okay? And this is the CNAB spec concept.
Okay, wait, stop. Thank you so much. That I have to jump in here. Okay, please restate for me. So the version of the bundle I get.
Yep.
Right? What is the app version in this case precisely?
Yeah. So the application, let's just go look at that real quick. I have a Go application that I wrote, and this is Tabby Cat's tracker, right?
Okay.
So this is the source code that I'm deploying with my bundle, okay?
Got it.
I build it into a Docker file, right?
Okay.
And then I'm deploying it with Helm, right?
Right. Okay.
And it's going to run there. And so when Helm is running it, it needs to know what version of the image I'm deploying.
Got it.
Right? And to me, this is the application version. Okay.
Got it.
Everyone
Okay.
has something different for their bundle. Some bundles are a suite or like a mismatch of things.
Sure,
In this case,
sure.
there's a clear one-to-one.
Right. So let me restate just so I'm trying to understand. So the reason that's custom in there is that the app version, you know what the app version actually is, and it's exactly what you just said. It's the version of the image that the Helm chart is deploying, and there's only one image, so we know that is the version. In a Helm chart that has 4 images, the version of each image could be different, and therefore there's a different
Then
kind
you
of
could have
thing.
done like that.
Right.
Custom is just it's my metadata for the bundle. I can put anything I want in here. It can be anything I want it to be. I was using this as a reminder to me that this is the version I'm using.
Right.
That's all.
Okay. So
I
that's
can
great.
quickly
And
see.
then we can move on to revisions. Please help me with that.
Yeah, okay. So let's look at what I've installed. We have bundles, right? And that's the actual thing that I publish to an OCI registry. And when I do install, I reference, Carolyn VS Tabby Tracker, right? So once I've installed a bundle, an instance of the bundle is an installation.
Got it.
So let's do Porter show, and we'll pick one of them. I'm going to do this one that we just did. Okay. And oh, I'm not showing it. Oh man. Okay, I'm in an awkward state with the V1.
That's
Normally
okay.
this would have
So what
showed you
would
the
it show?
Normally it shows you the history of all the different times you've installed it.
Right. That's what I expected.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. This is temporarily not in V1.
That's not a problem.
It's in like the stable build, but not this demo build that I'm showing you right now.
No apologies. Just describe what you would normally see.
It's fine. So anyways, normally you would see I've installed it 3 times and maybe run an upgrade and a database backup, for example. And each time I do that, right, it modifies the bundle resources, the resources that are managed by the bundle. And whenever this happens, whenever you run an action from the bundle that modifies bundle resources, the installation gets a new revision. And it's big ugly like UID.
Okay.
Yeah.
So there's an installation that is the bundle version, essentially, più o meno, more or less. And then every bundle version, every installation has an X number of revisions.
Yeah. So going back to your question about outputs and state and versions, okay? Let's say that I don't change anything about my bundle. And I run install, I get revision 1. Then I'm going to run upgrade, and I get revision 2. Okay? From revision 1, it had generated that state, right? The Terraform tfstate file. When I do the second run, Porter's going to grab the state from the previous revision and bring it forward and give it to the bundle when I'm running it next. So it's always just looking at what was the previous revision and then gives that to the bundle.
Right.
Yeah. But it has nothing to do, for the most part, with the definition of the bundle. If the definition of the bundle changes, and maybe I run something like Porter upgrade, and I want to upgrade the version of the bundle, like V0. Maybe it's 1.0, Tabby Tracker 1.0. At this point, it would still get the state from the older revision of the installation. And it's up to the bundle to understand if it had changed variables and definitions of the bundle and everything. It kind of needs to understand that there previously was data in an older format.
So what we're saying at this point is that on upgrade, you will retrieve the state of the previous revision.
Yep.
But so it's up to you to handle what the hell that means for your upgrade process.
Yeah. Porter's tracking a gzip file, right? That has a set of files that you said, hey, these are important to my bundle porter. So I'm going to track them. So it's tracking these 2 files. If in a new version of your bundle, you introduce maybe a 3rd file, when people upgrade, you got to be aware that 3rd file is not going to exist yet, for example. So your bundle needs to check, is the file there on the file system? And if it is, do one thing. And if it's not, potentially do another. Maybe generate the file on the first run, things like that. That kind of logic still has to be with the bundle because it's very specific to its own domain. Do you like my answer, Ralph?
Yeah, sort of. I do.
Okay.
So what you've done is you've clarified dramatically what the logical requirements are for handling state versions and revisions.
No.
And I think that is a tremendous step forward.
I mean, this is your feature. I don't know if you remember, you've been asking for it for 2 years.
Yeah, I know. And that this is absolutely the thing that helps us do this. It is, in my view, the radical heterogeneity of the kinds of applications we're now seeing is going to run headlong because it's just going to increase in complexity.
Yeah.
So there's going to be more heterogeneity. There's not going to be less. And so what that means is in the next 2 years, there are going to be more and more applications that need the ability to be clear about what it means to upgrade or revise a 37 binary thing, right? Like that's going to be required. But the problem there is not that it's complex, because it's complex. The problem there is understanding which parts are your responsibility and which parts are the tool's responsibility. If we have that dividing line done very, very clearly, then we can give guidance to people about how to behave and operate with confidence. And I think that is the big step forward here. It's tremendous.
Yeah, I think I like that it simplifies for both bundle authors and end users who run these bundles what's really their responsibility. Because what I've seen a lot of people do, I've seen you do it, is you put things that you need to persist, on these outputs and on these parameters, and then to an end user, when you run it, you're like, oh shoot, should I already have a kubectgg file?
Yeah.
Should I already have a connection string? Right?
I end up putting in my description that you don't need to do this. It gets picked up automatically later on.
Exactly. So this allows it to draw a clear separation of concerns, like you were saying, where I can go, nope, this is all my internal, plumbing, wiring, whatever. You don't need to worry about it. And then to a user, when they run explain or they look at this bundle definition, it's just going to be a lot more clear what's their problem.
This is fantastic.
Yeah.
I think it's fantastic. What do other people think? I'm biased because I wanted something like this. Hi, Brian.
Carolyn, hey, sorry. Just a quick question, and so just introducing myself. I've been kind of lurking for a little while, and you may notice I put in that feature for the TF-vars JSON in the Terraform. Yeah. It's great to see the progress made here. This was a use case I was really interested in. I'm curious, that state file that you're writing out, do we see the need for additional metadata associated with it? Should it have the version of the bundle that it was created with, so you can, in your upgrade path, take into account, oh, I have state from this version of my bundle, and I need to transform it into state for the newer version of my bundle?
Now, Porter itself isn't storing this information because it's already in the CNAB spec, actually.
Okay.
But you have to know where to look for it if you need it, and maybe we could make it easier to get to. When you run a bundle, okay, and it's executing, you're inside that container, on the file system under CNAB is a bundle.json file, right? And there's also some claims, and they tell you this is what version of the bundle was installed previously, and this is the version we're working with now. So you can tell, oh, not only am I running upgrade, but I'm moving from this previous version of the bundle to this version of the bundle.
Okay.
Yeah,
Great.
so we will give you that information. I will double check. I know Matt Butcher had a question of how we're storing those. I'll make sure that they're in a good documented spot and we all know about them, and make sure you can get to it from Porter. But basically, once you're inside the bundle, you can read it off the file system and get at the data you need.
Yeah, I think Terraform is a great example of use cases that can be general purposed out at the bundle level. And it's been just great what we've been able to do with this. So appreciate it.
Well, I'm glad it's useful, and I do love the TFRs thing. That was a great addition. One thing I want to go even further is that the Terraform mixin knows about these state things. Do we really want to make the bundle author write this down every time? It kind of becomes a little bit of boilerplate. Like every time I use Terraform mixin, I'm going to have to declare these state files. It'd be kind of nice if the Terraform mixin itself could clue in the bundle when it's being built and just say, hey, I generate these two files, track them for me. So we may be able to simplify this even further sometime in the future. But for now, at least we have a path to make it work.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense, actually. Yeah.
Oh. I know we got a couple more people on the call. I don't know if anyone else had something they wanted to share or had, I don't know, something they'd like to say. Otherwise, I'm going to move on to our issue backlog. Okay. Here we go. Oh, I lost HackMD real quick. Let me get that back. Okay. But seriously, though, everyone should install the Tabby Cat plugin because it brings me joy every time I open a new tab. It's just great. Oh, man. Vaughn, thank you for all these notes. This is really helpful. So now we did the demo. I just wanted to walk through our backlog unless anyone else had something last minute for the agenda, or maybe you want to put it on for next time. So this is just a plea to people who have code review rights. We have a couple PRs open. I was hoping people could look at it. I've added a code owners file to the CNAB spec because I forget every single time who can review, and tagging reviewers is awkward. So this should make it a little bit easier for us to move changes through more quickly. I just need one of these lovely people. If they're not on the call, I'll hunt them down later. I also have a bug I wanted to discuss. I'm not quite sure who all is here, but I've noticed that when we have optional parameters, say the parameter is a file, it's being injected on the file system as an empty file that just has the text null inside of it, which I don't know, Vaughn, if you've seen this too. It's kind of weird. And the CNAB spec is kind of a little unclear of what should happen for a file. For an environment variable, it kind of makes sense. We use an empty string, and you declare the environment variable, but it's declared as empty. When it's an optional file, though, I don't think it's helpful for the file to exist and have the word null in it. So I'd love to say instead that it's just not put in there. We'd leave the file off the file system. So if people want to comment and go thumbs up, yes, no, anything, it'd be great to make that change because I'm kind of using a patch of CNAB Go that already has that change. I just need people to say that that's actually an okay change to do because it is at the CNAB spec level. And then the most controversial change is that we can't agree on how to spell canceled, and I just need one. Oh wait, I got 2 reviews. Oh no. Vaughn, we should talk about making you an approver at some point. It breaks my heart to see this because I still can't merge it. But I need one more spec owner to approve this one as well. So we all agree it's 1L. That's it. Thank you all for coming. And, you know,
This is fantastic.
a version of Porter that has this is going to be coming out soon. It's all on Vaughn. How quickly can I convince him to merge my PRs? And then I'll cut a new alpha release of Porter.
I will
with
focus
this.
my attentions on Vaughn. I will schedule a conversation with Vaughn.
Yeah. No pressure, dude.
Also, I just like saying Vaughn.
There you go.
So.
All right. Thanks all for coming.
Cheers, everybody. This is amazing thing.
Bye.
Great demo. Thanks. Bye.